You are here among the mushrooms. The forest floor holds you without effort. Beneath you, the ground is soft with years of fallen things, needles and leaves pressed into something that asks nothing of you. The mushrooms are here too, scattered through the dim light, small and still. They grow without hurry. Some are pale, almost white in the shadows. Others hold a gentle brown, the color of bark that has softened with rain. They do not move. They have been here, growing slowly, and they will remain here, whether you notice them or not. The air around you is cool and slightly damp. It touches your skin the way air does when it has moved through moss and under low branches. There is no wind. The stillness is old, older than the trees standing silent around you. The mushrooms rise from the earth in their own time, emerging without sound. You do not need to do anything. Your weight rests into the ground. The ground receives it the way it receives everything, without comment, without change. Nearby, a cluster of small mushrooms grows at the base of a tree. Their caps are curved, smooth, catching almost no light. They have grown there for days, perhaps weeks. Time does not touch them the way it touches other things. Your breathing continues on its own. The forest breathes too, in its way. Not with lungs, but with the slow exchange of air moving between leaves and soil and the dark spaces beneath roots. The mushrooms are part of this. They release what they release. They take in what they need. There is no effort in it. The light here is very soft. It comes from above, filtered through layers of branches in the canopy you cannot see. It reaches the forest floor as something gentle, something that does not insist. The mushrooms glow faintly in this light, not with their own light, but with the quiet reflection of what little reaches them. You are lying here, or sitting, or simply present. The distinction does not seem important. What matters is that the ground is beneath you, and the mushrooms are near, and the air is still. Your body has settled. The muscles that were holding you have begun to forget they were holding anything. Around you, the forest floor continues. It extends in all directions, covered in the same softness, the same scattered presence of mushrooms. Some grow alone. Others grow in small groups, their caps nearly touching. They do not seek each other out. They simply grow where the conditions allow them to grow. There is no sound. Or if there is sound, it is so faint that it becomes part of the silence. A slight settling of bark, the smallest movement of air against a leaf. These sounds do not disturb anything. They are the sounds of a place that has been still for a long time and will remain still. The mushrooms do not grow upward with urgency. They expand slowly, their caps opening at a pace that cannot be seen. If you were to watch one for hours, you would see no change. And yet, they are changing, always, in the way that everything changes when time is allowed to stretch without interruption. Your thoughts are still present, perhaps, but they are not as loud as they were. They move more slowly now, like something drifting in water that has no current. The mushrooms do not think, they do not wonder. They exist in the dim light, connected to the earth through threads you cannot see, taking what they need from the soil and giving back what they have finished with. The air remains cool against your face. It has not warmed. It will not warm. This is the temperature of shade that has lasted all day, of ground that the sun does not reach. The mushrooms prefer this. They do not grow in bright places. They seek the dim corners, the spaces beneath things. the pockets of moisture and shadow. You are in one of those spaces now. The forest has made a place for you here, not intentionally, but simply by being what it is. The ground is soft, the air is still. The mushrooms grow nearby, small monuments to patience and the slow unfolding of life that does not announce itself. There is no destination. You are not moving toward anything. The mushrooms are not moving toward anything. They grow because the conditions allow it. They stop growing when the conditions change. There is no ambition in this, no plan, only the quiet continuation of what has already been happening. Your breathing has slowed, not because you have made it slow, but because the stillness here invites slowness. The mushrooms do not breathe as you breathe, but they exchange. They participate in the same cycle of air and moisture, of giving and receiving that happens without thought. The light shifts slightly perhaps, or perhaps it does not. It is difficult to tell in a place where change happens so gradually. The mushrooms do not notice. Their pale caps remain the same, curved and smooth, holding the same quiet presence they held a moment ago, an hour ago, days ago. You do not need to notice either. Your eyes may be closed now, or they may be open, resting on the gentle shapes of the mushrooms, on the texture of bark, on the soft browns and grays of the forest floor. It does not matter. The forest is the same whether you see it or not. Beneath the ground, beneath where you rest, the mushrooms extend. Their true form is not the caps you see. It is the network of fine threads spreading through the soil, connecting, reaching, forming patterns that have no center and no edge. This network has been here longer than the mushrooms above. It will remain after the caps have returned to the earth. You are held by something similar, not threads in the soil, but the simple fact of the ground beneath you, the air around you, the presence of life that continues without asking for your attention. The mushrooms are part of this presence. You are part of this presence. There is no separation that matters. The stillness deepens, not because anything has changed, but because you have been here long enough now that the stillness has become familiar. The mushrooms have always known this stillness. They grow within it. They are shaped by it. Their slow expansion, their quiet existence, is only possible because of the stillness that surrounds them. Your body continues to rest. The weight of it spreads into the ground. The ground accepts this weight, the way it accepts the weight of trees, of stones, of fallen branches, and the mushrooms themselves. Everything here is held without effort. Everything here is allowed to be exactly as it is. The mushrooms do not strive. They do not reach for light they cannot have. They exist in the conditions they have been given, and those conditions are enough. The dim light is enough. The cool air is enough. The soft ground is enough. You are enough resting here. The forest asks nothing of you. The mushrooms do not notice whether you are here or not. They continue in their slow rhythm, growing imperceptibly, releasing spores that drift through the still air, landing where they land, beginning again in new places, or not beginning at all. There is no urgency in any of this. The mushrooms will be here tomorrow. They were here yesterday. Time moves around them without touching them in any way that changes what they are. They remain small, pale, curved. They remain rooted in the network beneath the soil. They remain part of the forest's quiet breathing. And you remain here with them. The air has not changed. The light has not changed. The stillness continues gentle and complete. holding everything in place without force, without intention, simply by being what it has always been. The mushrooms near your hand are small. If you were to reach out, you could touch them, but there is no need. They are close enough that their presence is felt without touch. Their caps hold moisture from air that has moved through here slowly, bringing with it the coolness of deeper forest, of places where sunlight has not reached in years. Your hand rests where it rests. The ground beneath your palm is textured with small things, fragments of bark, the edges of leaves that have lost their shape. Among these things, the mushrooms grow. They do not avoid the debris. They grow through it, around it, part of the same slow transformation that turns everything eventually into soil. The forest floor is always becoming something else. What was a leaf becomes softness. What was a branch becomes the texture beneath you. The mushrooms help with this. They break down what has fallen. They return it to the earth in forms that other things can use. This happens without sound, without visible movement, in the time that stretches between seasons. You do not need to understand this. It happens whether you understand it or not. The mushrooms do their work in the dim light, in the coolness, in the moisture that gathers here. They have no awareness of working. They simply are, and in being, they transform. Your breathing continues in its rhythm, in and then out. The air moves through you the way it moves through the forest, touching everything, changing nothing. The mushrooms release their spores into the same air, invisible, uncountable. The spores drift in the stillness, settling eventually on bark, on soil, on the caps of other mushrooms. Some will grow, most will not. There is no tragedy in this. The mushrooms produce more spores than could ever grow. They release them into the air without expectation, without hope. What happens next is simply what happens. The forest receives what it receives. Near the base of a nearby tree, a cluster of mushrooms grows tightly together. Their caps overlap slightly, creating small shadows within shadows. They are the same color as the bark behind them, a soft brown that holds gray within it. In the dim light, they are barely distinguishable from the tree itself. They could be part of the bark, something the tree has made, rather than something separate. But they are separate in their way, connected to the tree through the network below, feeding on what the tree no longer needs, but separate in form, in texture, in the quiet persistence of their small shapes rising from the ground. The tree does not notice them. They do not notice the tree. Both exist, and that is all. The stillness here is not empty. It is full of small presences, the mushrooms, the trees, the soil and everything within it, the air, you. All of these things rest together in the same dim light, in the same coolness, held by the same ground. Your weight has fully settled now. There is no part of you still holding itself up. The ground has taken all of it, and the ground is patient, is strong enough, has held heavier things, and will hold them again. The mushrooms grow in this same ground, their stems pushing through the softness, finding purchase in the layers of decomposed matter. They do not push hard. They expand gently, filling the space that opens for them. If something blocks their path, they grow around it or stop growing. There is no force in their rising, only the steady pressure of life continuing in the way it continues, without drama, without declaration. The light has not brightened. It remains the same pale presence, barely there, just enough to suggest shapes and textures. The mushrooms do not need more light than this. They have adapted to the dimness, to the shade that lasts all day, to the absence of direct sun. Their pale color is enough in this light. They do not need to be vivid. They do not need to be seen. And yet, you see them, or sense them. Their small forms scattered across the area within your view, or within the space your closed eyes remember. They are points of gentleness in the landscape, soft curves, organic shapes that have no hard edges, no angles, nothing that could cut or wound. Everything here is soft. The ground, the air, the light, the mushrooms themselves. Even the bark of the trees has softened with age and moisture. When rain comes, and it does come, it falls gently here, filtered through so many layers that by the time it reaches the ground, it is barely rain anymore. Just wetness arriving slowly, soaking in without sound. The mushrooms swell slightly when the rain comes. They absorb the moisture, their caps darkening, their texture becoming more present. But even this change happens slowly. A mushroom in rain looks almost the same as a mushroom before rain. The difference is subtle, a matter of tone, of weight, of the way light moves across the surface. You do not need to wait for rain. The air already holds enough moisture. You can feel it on your skin, cool and slightly damp, the feeling of air that has passed through living things, through leaves and moss and the breathing soil. The mushrooms know this air. They have grown in it their entire existence. Their entire existence is not long, measured in days or weeks, but they do not measure, they do not count their days. They emerge, they grow, they release their spores, they soften and return to the earth. This cycle is neither sad nor joyful. It is simply what happens, the pattern that repeats, that has repeated, that will continue repeating long after this particular moment has dissolved into whatever comes next. Your thoughts have thinned. They are still there, perhaps, but they have less substance now. They drift like the spores drift, touching down occasionally, then lifting away again. The mushrooms do not have thoughts. They have responses, chemical and slow, but not thoughts. Not the kind that create stories or worry about time. Time is different here. It does not move forward in the way it moves in other places. It spreads out, becomes thicker, becomes something you rest in, rather than something that carries you. The mushrooms exist in this kind of time. They change, but the change is so gradual that each moment feels the same as the last. And this moment feels the same. The dim light, the cool air, the soft ground, the mushrooms in their scattered presence, your body at rest. Nothing has shifted. Nothing needs to shift. The forest holds this moment the way it has held every moment before it, patiently, without effort, without end. The mushrooms nearest you have small gills underneath their caps, delicate lines radiating from the center where the stem meets the cap, outward to the edges. These gills hold the spores, releasing them gradually into the air when the conditions are right. You cannot see the spores, they are too small. But they are there, drifting, settling, beginning or not beginning. Everything that happens here happens invisibly. The growth of the mushrooms, the movement of air, the work of the network beneath the soil, the slow giving way of your attention. All of it occurs without announcement, without markers, without anything to indicate that change is happening at all. And perhaps change is not happening. Perhaps this is simply continuation, the same stillness, the same mushrooms, the same ground, the same you, resting in the same moment that has no clear beginning and no clear end. The forest has always been here in one form, or another. The mushrooms have always been here, growing and returning and growing again. You have always been here too, in this moment. Or you have just arrived. The distinction has blurred. The mushrooms do not mark time. They do not separate then from now. They exist, and you exist beside them, and the existing is enough. The ground beneath you holds a lifetime of fallen things. Layer upon layer, year after year, everything that has dropped from above has settled here. Leaves, needles, small branches, the bodies of insects, the caps of old mushrooms that have completed their cycle. All of it compresses slowly into the softness you rest on now. The mushrooms grow from this accumulation. They do not see it as decay. They do not have concepts like decay or renewal. They simply draw from what is available, transforming the fallen into their own brief forms, their pale caps and slender stems, before returning themselves to the same earth. Your body has become very still. The small movements that usually persist, the tiny adjustments, the shifting of weight, have subsided. You rest now the way a stone rests, the way the mushrooms rest between the imperceptible moments of their growth. Everything has found its place. The air moves slightly, not enough to be called wind, not even enough to be called a breeze, just the smallest shift. The forest breathing in its slow way, drawing coolness from one area, releasing it into another. The mushrooms do not bend in this movement. They are too solid, too close to the ground. They remain where they are, as they have remained. Near your feet, a mushroom grows alone. It is smaller than the others, newer perhaps, or simply slower in its growth. Its cap is still tightly curved, not yet open to release spores. It may open later, or it may not. Some mushrooms never fully open. They remain in this closed state, curved inward, holding themselves. There is no failure in this. The mushroom is simply responding to the conditions it has been given. If the moisture is not right, if the temperature shifts, if something in the soil changes, the mushroom adjusts. It does not have expectations of what it should become. It becomes what it becomes. Your breathing has found a rhythm that asks nothing of you. In and out, in and out. The air moving through you without your guidance, without your attention. The mushrooms participate in this same exchange, taking in oxygen, releasing carbon dioxide, part of the same cycle that includes you and the trees and every living thing in this forest. But their exchange is slower, much slower. A mushroom breathes at a pace that cannot be measured in moments. Its respiration is part of the gradual chemistry of its existence, happening over hours, over days, invisible and patient and complete. The light has not changed. It remains dim, soft, filtered through layers you cannot see. This is the light the forest knows best, the light that persists even when the sun moves across the sky above the canopy. The mushrooms have never known direct sunlight. They have grown in this dimness their entire existence. And the dimness is sufficient. It provides enough for the forest floor, enough for the moss that grows on fallen logs, enough for the mushrooms to sense the world in their limited way, to know which direction is up, to orient their caps and release their spores into the still air. A mushroom across from you has begun to lean slightly, not dramatically, just a small tilt, the stem curving gently to one side. This happens as mushrooms age, as the weight of their caps shifts, as the stem responds to forces too small to name. The lean is barely visible. You might not notice it at all, but it is there, this small evidence of time passing. The mushroom leans, and in leaning, it remains exactly what it is. The lean does not diminish it. It does not make it less. It is simply the shape the mushroom has taken as it exists in this moment, and the next moment, and the moment after that. Your face has softened. The small muscles around your eyes, your mouth, the places that hold tension without your knowing, have released. The forest does not ask you to hold anything. The mushrooms do not require your attention. Everything here exists in its own right, and you are allowed to exist without effort. The coolness touches your skin evenly. Your hands, your face, whatever parts of you are exposed to the air. The temperature does not vary. It is the same coolness everywhere, the temperature of shade that has lasted all day, of ground that holds the night's cold, even as the day passes above. The mushrooms prefer this coolness. They do not thrive in warmth. They seek the places where temperature remains constant, where the extremes of heat and cold do not reach. This forest floor is such a place. The canopy above blocks the sun. The earth below stores the coolness. The mushrooms grow in this protected space, safe from conditions that would dry them, wilt them, end them before their time, though their time is always brief. Even in perfect conditions, a mushroom's visible form lasts only days or weeks. But the network below, the mycelium that is the mushroom's true body, persists for years, decades, longer. The caps you see are temporary expressions of something more enduring, more vast. You do not see the network. It spreads beneath you, beneath the mushrooms, connecting trees and soil and fallen wood in a web of fine threads. This network is ancient in some places, new in others, always growing, always responding, always transforming what it touches into forms that other things can use. The mushrooms above are the fruiting bodies. They exist to spread spores, to continue the network into new areas. But they are not the whole of the mushroom. They are not even the most important part. They are simply the visible part, the part that rises into the air and catches what little light reaches here. Your attention has spread like the network. It no longer focuses on any one thing. It touches the mushrooms, the ground, the air, the sensation of your own body resting. But it does not hold any of these things. It drifts between them, connecting them loosely, without insistence, without the need to understand or categorize or remember. The mushrooms do not remember. They have no memory of sprouting, no awareness of the days they have existed, no anticipation of the days to come. They are present in each moment completely, responding to moisture, to temperature, to the chemical signals from the network below, but not holding any of it, not carrying any moment beyond itself. And you are learning this, perhaps, not learning in the way of acquiring knowledge, but learning in the way of letting go, of allowing each moment to exist without attaching it to the moments before or after. The mushrooms are teachers in this way, though they do not teach. They simply demonstrate, through their stillness, through their patient growth, through their acceptance of whatever comes. The air has not warmed, it will not warm. The sun above the canopy may be bright, may be heating the outer leaves of the trees, but here, where you rest with the mushrooms, the temperature remains the same. Cool, slightly damp, unchanged. This constancy is part of what makes this place safe. Nothing sudden happens here. Nothing erupts or crashes or shifts violently. The forest floor is a place of gradual transitions, of changes so slow they feel like stillness, of time that has been stretched thin enough to rest inside. The mushrooms grow in this stretched time. They expand so slowly that you could watch one for hours and see no change. And yet, they are always changing, always growing, cell by cell, molecule by molecule, drawing nutrients up from the network below and transforming them into the pale flesh of their caps, their stems. Your thoughts have become like spores. They drift through your awareness, settling occasionally, then lifting away again. Some take root briefly before dissolving. Others pass through without landing at all. There is no need to catch them, no need to hold them. They are part of the air, part of the forest's breathing, part of the same cycle that includes everything here. A mushroom near the tree has darkened slightly, age perhaps, or a change in moisture. Its cap holds a deeper brown now, the color of wet bark, of soil rich with decomposed matter. This darkening does not alarm the mushroom. It has no concept of alarm. It simply is darker now than it was, and it continues being, continues existing in the dim light. The forest accepts all stages, the bright pale of new mushrooms, the deeper tones of older ones, the soft collapse when a mushroom's time ends and it begins folding back into the earth. All of these stages exist here simultaneously, scattered across the forest floor, each mushroom in its own moment of the cycle. You exist in your own moment too, this moment where your body rests and your breathing continues and the mushrooms grow nearby in their patient way. This moment that has no clear beginning, that shows no signs of ending, that simply is, the way the forest is, the way the mushrooms are. The stillness deepens without changing. It has always been this deep. You are simply noticing it more now, or noticing it less, sinking into it the way the mushrooms sink their networks into the soil, spreading through it, becoming part of it, until there is no clear line between the mushroom and the earth it grows from. There is no clear line between you and this stillness. You rest in it. It rests in you. The distinction has softened. The mushrooms do not distinguish between themselves and the forest. They are part of the system, integral to it, and the system is integral to them. Separate forms, but not separate existence. Your body continues its quiet work. Heart beating, blood moving, breath flowing, all of it happening without your direction, without your awareness. The mushrooms do their quiet work too, breaking down, building up, exchanging, transforming, all of it chemical and slow and necessary. Nothing here needs to be observed to continue. The mushrooms will grow whether you watch them or not. Your breath will continue whether you notice it or not. The forest will persist in its ancient patterns, holding everything in its green dimness, its cool shade, its patient silence. The ground has warmed slightly where your body touches it. Not much, just the small transfer of heat that happens when two things rest against each other long enough. The mushrooms do not warm the ground. They are the same temperature as everything around them, cool and constant, part of the forest's temperature rather than separate from it. Your warmth is leaving you gradually, not in a way that feels cold, just a gentle evening out. Your body temperature slowly matching the air, the ground, the coolness that surrounds you. The mushrooms have always been this temperature. They have never been warm. They grow in the coolness without complaint. They do not wish for warmth. They do not imagine different conditions. They exist in what is given, and what is given is this dim, cool forest floor, this soft ground, this still air. And in these conditions, they thrive in their quiet way, producing caps and stems and spores, continuing the network that spreads invisibly below. A mushroom very close to you has a small imperfection on its cap, a tiny mark, darker than the rest, where something touched it perhaps, or where its growth was interrupted briefly. The mushroom does not notice this imperfection. It grows around it, continues past it, becomes what it becomes, regardless of the small mark on its surface. You have imperfections too, small marks, interruptions, places where things did not go as they might have. The mushrooms do not judge these. They do not judge anything. They exist beside you, accepting your presence the way they accept the presence of bark and stones and fallen branches, as part of what is here, part of the landscape they share. The air continues its slight movement, barely perceptible, just the smallest circulation. Cool air settling, slightly less cool air rising, the forest breathing in its ancient rhythm. The mushrooms participate in this breathing, releasing moisture into the air, absorbing what they need, part of the exchange that has no beginning and no end. Your own breathing has synchronized with something, not with anything specific, not with the forest or the mushrooms or the movement of air, but it has found a rhythm that feels connected to this place, that feels appropriate to the stillness, to the slowness, to the way time moves here without urgency. The mushrooms have no sense of urgency. They cannot hurry their growth. They cannot force their caps to open faster or their spores to travel farther. They exist at the pace they exist, determined by temperature and moisture and the nutrients available in the soil, by factors beyond their control and beyond their awareness. And there is peace in this, in the absence of control, in the acceptance of pace, in the understanding that growth happens in its own time or does not happen at all. The mushrooms demonstrate this peace simply by being what they are, rooted in their network, rising in their small forms, present without striving. Your hands have settled completely. They rest on the ground or at your sides or wherever they have come to rest, and they have stopped seeking a more comfortable position. This is the position. This is where they belong in this moment. The mushrooms nearby have also found their positions, their small territories on the forest floor, their places in the landscape. Nothing here is misplaced. Everything is exactly where it is, and where it is sufficient. The mushrooms do not grow in neat rows. They scatter according to where the spores landed, where the conditions allowed growth, where the network below sent up fruiting bodies. The pattern is random and also perfect, the natural arrangement of things left to find their own places. The light remains unchanged, dim, soft, constant. It does not brighten toward evening or fade toward night. The forest floor exists in a perpetual twilight, neither day nor night, just this gentle dimness that persists regardless of what the sun is doing above the canopy. The mushrooms know only this light. They have adapted to it completely. Your eyes have adapted too, whether open or closed. They have adjusted to the dimness. The mushrooms are visible as pale shapes, soft forms against the darker ground. Their exact details blur, but their presence remains clear. They are here, scattered around you, growing in their patient way. A cluster of very small mushrooms grows near your shoulder. They are barely formed, just tiny caps on thin stems, so small they could be overlooked entirely. But they are there, pushing up through the soft ground, beginning their brief existence. They will grow larger, or they will not. They will release spores, or they will return to the earth before reaching that stage. The outcome is not predetermined. The mushrooms respond to what comes. If rain arrives, they may swell and thrive. If the air becomes too dry, they may wither. They do not plan for either possibility. They simply exist in each moment, responding, adjusting, being. Your body has stopped planning too. The part of you that organizes time, that thinks ahead to the next moment and the moment after that, has quieted. There is only this moment, this resting, this presence among the mushrooms in the dim forest. What comes next will come, or it will not come, and either way, this moment remains. The mushrooms teach this without teaching. They have no wisdom to impart. They have no lessons planned. They simply exist in a way that demonstrates presence, that shows what it means to be fully in one place, one time, without division, without the part of awareness that stands apart and observes and judges. The ground continues to hold you. It has not tired of holding you. It will not ask you to move. The ground holds everything with the same patient strength, the trees and the mushrooms and the stones and you. It asks nothing in return. It simply holds, has always held, will continue holding long after this particular moment has dissolved. The mushrooms are held in the same way. Their stems push into the soil, finding purchase in the soft layers, anchoring themselves against the small forces that might topple them. But the ground does most of the work, providing the stability, the foundation, the source from which they draw everything they need. Your needs have simplified. The complex wanting that usually fills awareness has thinned. Here, in the presence of the mushrooms, in the stillness of the forest floor, needs become basic again: rest, air, the soft ground beneath. These things are provided. These things are enough. The mushrooms need very little: moisture, coolness, the nutrients in the soil, the network below, to connect them to resources. They do not need variety. They do not need stimulation. They exist in this one place, in these same conditions, and they are complete. And you are complete too, resting here. Not because you have achieved something, not because you have arrived at some destination, but because completeness is simply the state of being present, of occupying space, of existing without the need for anything to be different than it is. The air has the scent of earth and growing things, faint, almost imperceptible, the smell of soil and mushrooms and decaying leaves, all mixed together into the distinctive scent of the forest floor. The mushrooms contribute to this scent. They release compounds into the air, part of their existence, part of what they are. You breathe in this scent without thinking about it. It enters you with each breath, molecules that were part of the forest, becoming briefly part of you, then leaving again, exhaled into the stillness. The mushrooms do the same, taking in and releasing, participating in the constant exchange that connects everything here. The exchange is gentle. Nothing is taken forcefully. Nothing is held too tightly. The forest operates on giving and receiving, on the slow circulation of matter and energy through soil and air and living things. The mushrooms are essential to this circulation. They break down what has fallen, return it to forms that plants can use, take what they need, and give back what they have finished with. Your role in this exchange is simply to rest, to breathe, to occupy space, to be present in the same way the mushrooms are present, without agenda, without purpose, beyond existing. The forest does not require you to do anything. The mushrooms do not need you to understand them. Everything continues whether you participate actively or simply rest. And resting is its own participation. Your body exchanges air with the forest. Your warmth slowly spreads into the ground. Your presence alters the small space around you in ways too subtle to measure. The mushrooms do the same, their existence changing the soil, the air, the network below, in ways that accumulate slowly over time. Time has become very soft. The edges of moments have blurred. It is difficult to tell when one breath ends and another begins, when one thought fades and another emerges, when the mushrooms shifted from one stage of growth to another. Everything blends into a continuous present, always happening, never quite beginning or ending. The mushrooms exist in this continuous present. They have no memory of sprouting, no anticipation of releasing spores. They are simply here, now, in this state of growth, this moment of existence. And this moment stretches, becomes elastic, holds everything without strain. Your awareness has become elastic too. It stretches to include the mushrooms, the ground, the air, the sensation of resting. It does not focus sharply on any one thing. It holds everything loosely, the way a hand holds water, present but not grasping, aware but not controlling. The mushrooms do not control anything. They respond, they adjust, they grow in the directions that are open to them. But they do not decide. They do not choose. They are part of processes larger than themselves, chemical and biological and ecological, processes that have been running for longer than any individual mushroom, longer than any individual tree. You are part of processes too, breathing, resting, existing, processes that began before you were aware of them, that will continue after awareness has faded into sleep or into something deeper than sleep. The mushrooms demonstrate this, their existence a reminder that consciousness is not required for being, that presence continues regardless of awareness. The light has not dimmed further. It remains the same pale presence it has been, neither brightening nor fading. The forest floor exists outside the usual progression of day into night. Time is marked differently here, by the slow growth of mushrooms, by the gradual decomposition of fallen things, by changes too subtle to perceive in any single moment. And this moment continues. The same stillness, the same coolness, the same mushrooms in their scattered presence. Your body at rest, breath flowing, awareness spread thin across the landscape, touching everything lightly, holding nothing firmly. The mushrooms have no concept of holding. They do not grasp at life. They do not cling to their form. They exist. And when their time comes to dissolve back into the earth, they do so without resistance. The cells soften, the structure gives way, and what was a mushroom becomes food for the network below, nutrients for the next generation. This cycle has repeated countless times on this forest floor. Mushrooms rising, existing briefly, returning. The same spots on the ground producing fruiting bodies year after year, season after season. The network below persistent, enduring, sending up these temporary expressions of itself whenever conditions allow. You are a temporary expression too, not of a network below the ground, but of processes just as ancient, just as persistent. Cells organizing themselves, breath moving through, awareness emerging and fading, all of it temporary, all of it part of something that continues beyond any individual form. The mushrooms do not think about this. They do not contemplate their temporary nature. They simply are temporary in the same way they simply are mushrooms, in the same way the forest simply is forest. There is no anxiety in this, no resistance, just the quiet unfolding of what is already unfolding. your breath has become very quiet. The sound of it has diminished. Or perhaps your awareness of the sound has dimmed. The air moves in and out, but so gently now that it feels less like breathing and more like the forest breathing through you, using your lungs the way it uses the mushrooms as part of its larger respiration. The forest breathes slowly. Its inhale and exhale happen over hours, over days. The slow exchange between soil and air, between leaf and sky, between the darkness below and the dimness here. The mushrooms are part of this breath, releasing what they release, absorbing what they need. And you are part of this breath. Each inhale brings in molecules that were just released by mushrooms, by moss, by the decomposing leaves. Each exhale gives back moisture, carbon dioxide, warmth. The exchange is constant, invisible, connecting everything here in ways too subtle to trace. A mushroom near your knee has opened its cap fully. The underside is visible now, the delicate gills arranged in perfect radial patterns, each one lined with spores waiting to be released. The mushroom does not know it has opened. It does not feel the change. It simply responds to the conditions, the moisture level, the chemical signals from within, and the cap unfolds. The unfolding happens slowly. Over hours, perhaps over days, the cap gradually spreading from its tight curve to this open position. No single moment marked the transition from closed to open. It happened in the space between moments, in the continuous present where the mushrooms exist. Your hands have forgotten they are hands. They rest on the ground, part of the landscape now, as still as the mushrooms, as settled as the stones. The sensation of them has faded or merged with the sensation of the ground, until there is no clear boundary between your skin and the earth it touches. The mushrooms have no boundaries either. Their network spreads through the soil, connecting with the roots of trees, with other mushroom networks, forming relationships that blur the distinction between individual organisms. Where one mushroom ends and another begins is not clear. They are separate fruiting bodies, but the network below may be the same network, one organism expressing itself in multiple forms. You are expressing yourself in this form too, this body, this awareness, this presence on the forest floor. But the boundaries of self have softened. The edges where you end and the forest begins have become permeable. You breathe the forest's air. You rest on the forest's ground. You exist in the forest's time. The mushrooms have always existed in this way. They have never known separation. They are always part of the soil, part of the network, part of the larger system. Even when they produce individual caps and stems, they remain connected, remain part of something that extends beyond what is visible. The light has the same quality it has always had, soft, dim, filtered. It touches the mushrooms gently, not illuminating them so much as suggesting their presence. They do not need bright light. They have evolved in dimness, adapted to the understory, to the places where sun does not reach. Your eyes have adapted to this dimness completely. The mushrooms are visible as shapes, as presences, even with eyes closed or barely open. The mind fills in what the eyes cannot see, creates the image of mushrooms from memory, from the brief glimpses already taken, from the sensation of their nearness. But perhaps the eyes are open, or perhaps they are closed. The distinction has become unimportant. The mushrooms are present either way. The forest continues regardless. Rest does not require sight. A very small mushroom grows directly in your line of vision, or it would be if your eyes were open and focused. It is there, a tiny pale form, no larger than a fingertip, perfect in its smallness. It has all the features of larger mushrooms, cap and stem and gills, just compressed into this miniature form. The small mushroom is not trying to grow larger. It grows to the size that conditions allow. If nutrients are scarce, if moisture is limited, the mushroom remains small. It does not strive for size. It does not compare itself to the larger mushrooms nearby. It simply is the size it is. You are the size you are too. This body, this presence, this amount of space occupied. The mushrooms do not judge size. They exist at whatever scale they exist, small or large, and each scale is appropriate. Each size is complete. The coolness has penetrated deeper now, not uncomfortably, just a thorough coolness, reaching through clothes if you wear them, through skin, into the muscles and bones. You're becoming the same temperature as the forest, the same coolness as the mushrooms, part of the thermal landscape. The mushrooms have always been this temperature. They do not generate heat. They do not maintain a temperature different from their surroundings. They are cool because the forest is cool, because the shade persists, because the ground stores the night's chill even through the day. Your body has stopped maintaining temperature too, or at least the effort of maintaining it has faded from awareness. The small adjustments, the tiny activations of muscle to generate warmth have ceased or become so subtle they are no longer noticed. You are simply here at this temperature, in this coolness. The mushrooms accept whatever temperature they are given. Warmth or coolness, they adjust their growth accordingly. In warmth, they may grow faster, but they prefer coolness. In coolness, they can take their time, can expand slowly, can avoid the drying effects of heat. Time here continues to stretch, each moment lasting longer than it should, or perhaps time has simply stopped being measured in moments and has become something else, a continuous medium, thick and slow, that everything exists within rather than moves through. The mushrooms exist in this thick time. They have never known hurried time. They have never experienced urgency or deadline or the pressure of moments passing too quickly. They grow in the time that is given, at the pace that conditions allow, and that pace is always the right pace. Your pace has slowed to match theirs. Breath slow, thoughts slow, awareness slow. Everything moving at the speed of mushroom growth, which is to say, barely moving at all. Just this gentle continuation, this patient unfolding that could be called stillness, if stillness could include growth. The ground beneath you is completely still. It does not shift or settle. It has found its configuration long ago, compressed over years into the density it has now. The mushrooms grow in this stillness, their stems pushing through the softness, finding spaces between particles, moving so slowly that the ground does not register their movement as movement. Your movement has ceased too. The small fidgets, the adjustments, the unconscious shifts of position have all stopped. You have found your configuration, your position on the forest floor. And like the ground itself, you have settled into it completely. The mushrooms never fidget. They do not adjust their position. Once they begin growing in a spot, they remain in that spot, rooted through their network, committed to that small territory. If something blocks their growth, they grow around it or accept the limitation. They do not relocate. They do not seek better conditions elsewhere. And you do not seek better conditions either. This spot, this ground, this presence among mushrooms is sufficient. The coolness is right. The dimness is right. The stillness is right. Everything here is exactly as it needs to be, and there is no elsewhere to compare it to, no other moment to wish for. The mushrooms have no wishes, they have no desires beyond the chemical imperatives of growth, of reproduction, of continuing the network. And even these are not desires in any conscious sense. They are simply processes happening because the conditions allow them to happen. Your desires have thinned. The wanting that usually drives awareness has quieted. Or perhaps it has been satisfied by this simple presence, this resting among mushrooms in the cool dimness. There is nothing to want that is not already here. The air continues its gentle circulation, cool air settling around the mushrooms around you, pooling in the low places of the forest floor. Slightly warmer air, if it can be called warmer, rising in currents too slow to feel. The forest breathing, everything breathing, the constant exchange that requires no effort, no intention. Your breathing participates without participation. It happens on its own, part of the forest's breath, part of the cycle that includes the mushrooms and the trees and the soil. You do not breathe. Breathing happens, uses your lungs, continues whether awareness follows it or not. The mushrooms do not follow anything. They do not track their own growth. They do not monitor their progress. They simply are, moment by moment, cell by cell, becoming what they are becoming without observation, without commentary. And you are becoming too, not becoming something else, just becoming more fully what you already are, which is this presence, this rest, this body on the forest floor, this awareness that is spread so thin it barely qualifies as awareness anymore. More like a soft knowing, a gentle participation in the existing that everything here shares. The mushrooms share this existing. They exist beside you, around you, in the same moment, in the same stillness. Their small, pale forms scattered across the landscape, each one a point of gentle presence, each one completely itself and also completely part of the forest. The forest holds everything without effort. The trees, the mushrooms, the soil, the air, you. All of it held in the same ancient embrace, the same patient presence that has persisted here for longer than can be measured, that will persist long after this particular configuration of mushrooms and awareness has dissolved. And the dissolution has already begun, not dramatically, not noticeably, just the slow softening of edges, the gradual blurring of boundaries, the gentle return of everything to the larger pattern. The mushrooms are always dissolving, even as they grow. Cells dying at the base, while new cells form at the cap, the constant turnover hidden beneath the appearance of a solid form. Your form is turning over too, cells dying, cells being born, breath by breath, moment by moment, the body renewing itself in ways too subtle to perceive. You are not the same body that lay down here, however long ago that was. You are a slightly different collection of cells, arranged in the same pattern, holding the same shape. The mushrooms hold their shape too for now, but the shape is temporary, maintained only as long as the conditions support it. When moisture decreases, when temperature changes, when the network below redirects its resources, the shape will soften, collapse, return to the earth from which it came. Nothing here is permanent, and yet everything here is enduring in the sense that the patterns repeat, the network persists, the forest continues. The individual mushroom is temporary, but mushrooms are permanent, always rising from the soil when conditions allow, always present on this forest floor in one form or another. You are both temporary and enduring too. This particular moment of awareness is temporary, will fade into sleep or into something else. But awareness itself continues, part of the larger pattern, always emerging somewhere, in some form, participating in the existence that everything shares. The mushrooms participate without knowing they participate. They grow, they release spores, they decompose what has fallen, all without awareness of their role, without understanding of the system they support. They simply do what they do, and in doing it, they are essential, irreplaceable, part of what makes the forest possible. Your participation requires nothing either. No understanding, no effort, no conscious involvement. Simply being here, breathing, resting, occupying this space is enough. The forest accepts your presence the way it accepts the mushrooms, as part of what is here, part of the landscape. The landscape has absorbed you, or you have been absorbed by it. The distinction is unclear. You rest on the ground, but also in the ground, part of the soft layer of needles and leaves and decomposing matter. The mushrooms grow from this layer, and you rest on it. And perhaps there is no meaningful difference between growing from and resting on, between being part of and being with. The mushrooms are always part of. Even when they produce individual fruiting bodies, they remain connected to the network, to the soil, to the system that supports them. They cannot exist separately. They have no independent existence. They are always in relationship, always connected. And you are always in relationship too, with the air you breathe, with the ground that holds you, with the forest that surrounds you. The illusion of separation has thinned, revealing the connections that were always there, the ways in which existence is always shared, always communal, always dependent on countless other existences. The mushrooms demonstrate this dependence. They need the trees for the nutrients the trees provide through their roots. They need the fallen material to decompose. They need the moisture, the coolness, the shade. Remove any of these elements, and the mushrooms cannot exist. They are completely vulnerable, completely dependent, and in this dependence, they thrive. Your dependence is complete too, on air, on the earth, on the processes that sustain a body, on the forest that holds you in this moment. The independence that usually feels so important has revealed itself as illusion. Everything depends on everything else. Everything supports everything else. The mushrooms know this in their cells, in their chemistry, in the way they exist. The knowing does not require thought. The mushrooms do not think about dependence. They do not conceptualize relationship. They simply live it, embody it, demonstrate it through their existence. The network below spreads and connects. The fruiting bodies above receive and release. All of it happening without planning, without understanding, just the natural unfolding of what is already unfolding. Your thoughts have become very faint. They arise, if they arise at all, like distant sounds, like something heard from far away. The mushrooms do not think. They do not narrate their experience. They exist in a pre-thought space, a space of direct response, of chemical reaction, of growth that happens without commentary. And you are in that space too, or near it. The constant internal narration has quieted. The voice that usually describes experience, that names and categorizes and judges, has faded to near silence. What remains is just the experience itself, just the resting, the coolness, the presence of mushrooms, without words, without interpretation. The mushrooms have never had words. They have never named themselves or each other. They have never described the forest or commented on conditions. They exist in pure sensation, if sensation is even the right word, in pure response to the chemical and physical realities around them. The forest is quieter without words. Or perhaps it has always been this quiet, and the absence of internal narration simply allows the quiet to be noticed. The stillness is profound. Even the small sounds that exist, the barely audible settling of bark, the whisper of air, do not disturb this quiet. They are part of it, expressions of it. Your body has become very quiet too. The processes continue, breath and heartbeat, and the movement of blood. But they happen in the background now, beneath awareness, part of the body's own knowing that requires no conscious attention. The mushrooms operate in this same way, their internal processes running without supervision, without thought. A mushroom across from you has released its spores, not visibly. The spores are too small to see as they drift into the still air. But the release has happened, the purpose of the cap fulfilled, the continuation of the network ensured, or at least attempted. Most spores will not grow. Most will land in places where conditions are wrong, or they will be consumed, or they will simply fail to establish. The mushroom releases them anyway, without calculation, without concern for success rates. It produces spores because that is what mushrooms do, and it releases them because conditions have allowed release. What happens after is not the mushroom's concern. It has no concern. It simply continues existing until it does not exist anymore. Your concerns have dissolved too. The worries that usually occupy awareness, the plans and anxieties and hopes, have lost their substance. They may still exist somewhere in some part of the mind, but here, in this moment, in this resting among mushrooms, they have no presence, no weight, no importance. The mushrooms have never carried concerns. They grow without worry. They exist without anxiety. If conditions become inhospitable, they wither, but without distress, without fear. They simply respond to what is, adjusting when adjustment is possible, ceasing when ceasing is necessary. The ceasing is as natural as the growing. The mushrooms that have completed their cycle, that have released their spores and begun to soften, are scattered among the newer mushrooms. They collapse slowly, their structure weakening, their caps folding inward. Soon, they will be indistinguishable from the ground, returned to the soil, their matter available for the network to use again. You are returning too, not in the same way, not yet. But the boundaries have softened. The sense of being separate from the forest, from the ground, from the mushrooms, has thinned. You are still distinct, still occupying your own form, but the edges have blurred, allowing a kind of merging, a kind of participation in the larger existence. The mushrooms have always participated in this way. They have never experienced separation. They emerge from the network still connected to it, express its presence for a brief time, then dissolve back into it. The separation between individual and network is minimal, almost non-existent. Your separation is minimal too now. The distinct self that usually feels so solid, so separate, has become permeable, transparent, barely there. What remains is just presence, just the quality of existing, which you share with the mushrooms, with the trees, with the soil and air and everything here. The forest exists as one thing, not as a collection of separate elements, but as a single system, a single organism in a sense, all parts connected, all parts depending on all other parts. The mushrooms are the forest's digestive system. The trees are its lungs. The soil is its skin. And you, resting here, are part of it too, temporarily, a visiting cell, a borrowed element. The borrowed time is stretching. How long have you been here? The question has no answer. Time is measured differently on the forest floor, if it is measured at all. The mushrooms do not track hours or days. They track moisture and temperature, chemical signals, the availability of nutrients. These measures are more relevant, more real than the abstract counting of moments. Your internal counting has stopped. The part of mind that usually tracks time, that marks the passage of moments, has quieted. There is only now, this extended now, this continuous present, where the mushrooms exist and you exist and everything unfolds at its own pace, without hurry, without delay. The mushrooms never delay. They grow when conditions allow. They fruit when the network supports it. They release spores when the time is right. All of this happens in its proper sequence, its proper timing, without rushing and without waiting. Just the natural unfolding of processes that have been refined over millennia. Your processes are unfolding too, naturally, without interference, without the usual attempts to control or modify or improve. The breath flows at its own pace. The body rests at its own depth. The awareness drifts at its own current, touching things lightly, moving on, returning, circling in patterns that have no purpose, no destination. The mushrooms have no destination. They do not grow toward anything. They do not aim for completion. They simply grow, exist, participate for as long as conditions allow, and then they stop, return, dissolve. The cycle is complete in itself, needs no further purpose, no meaning beyond the doing of it, and your being here needs no purpose either, no reason beyond the simple fact of it. You are here among the mushrooms because you are here. The forest holds you because it holds everything. The moment continues because moments continue. There is no why that needs answering, no question that needs resolving. The mushrooms never ask why. They exist before questions, before the kind of consciousness that wonders and doubts and seeks meaning. They are pure existence, pure being, demonstrating that life does not require understanding, that presence is sufficient in itself. Your presence is sufficient too. Nothing more is needed, no achievement, no realization, no special state. Just this resting, this breathing, this being held by the ground and the company of mushrooms in the dim coolness of the forest floor. Sufficient, complete, whole. The forest accepts everything as sufficient, the small mushroom and the large mushroom, the newly emerged and the dissolving, the perfect form and the imperfect. All of it accepted, all of it part of the landscape, all of it contributing in its own way to the continuation of everything. You are accepted too, without judgment, without evaluation, without any need to be different than you are. The mushrooms do not judge your presence. The forest does not require you to earn your place here. The ground holds you simply because you are here to be held. The holding is unconditional. The ground does not decide whether you are worthy of support. It supports because that is what ground does. The mushrooms do not evaluate whether you belong here. You are here, and therefore you belong in the way that everything here belongs by virtue of being here. Your worthiness is not in question. It never was. The questions that usually arise, the doubts about deserving and earning and being enough, are human constructions. ideas that the forest knows nothing about. In the forest, existence itself is enough. The mushrooms exist, and that is sufficient. You exist, and that is sufficient. The sufficiency is complete. Nothing needs to be added. Nothing needs to be taken away. The mushrooms demonstrate this in their simple presence, their uncomplicated being. They are what they are, nothing more, nothing less. And what they are is exactly right. And what you are is exactly right too. Resting here, breathing slowly, awareness spread thin, thoughts barely present, boundaries soft, separation minimal. This is the right form, the right state for this moment, in this place, among these mushrooms. The rightness is inherent, not earned through effort, not achieved through practice, just the natural rightness of things being as they are. The mushrooms are right in their growing. The forest is right in its being. You are right in your resting. All of it right, all of it appropriate, all of it exactly as it needs to be. The needing has softened too. Even the concept of need has lost its urgency. The mushrooms need moisture and nutrients, but they do not experience need as lack, as something missing. They respond to what is available, grow when they can, rest when they cannot. The presence or absence of what they need is simply a condition, not a problem. Your needs are simply conditions too. The need for air is met by breathing. The need for support is met by the ground. The need for rest is met by this resting. Everything required is provided, not through effort or seeking, but through the simple fact of being here in this place where the conditions support existence. The support is constant. The ground does not waver in its holding. The air does not cease its availability. The forest continues its ancient patterns of provision and support, maintaining the conditions that allow mushrooms to grow, trees to stand, and you to rest. And the resting continues, breath after breath, moment after moment. The same continuous resting that could be called sleeping, except that sleeping implies an end, a waking, a return to some other state. This resting has no clear end. It simply continues, deepens, spreads, becomes more complete without becoming more anything, just settling further into itself, into the stillness, into the presence that the mushrooms know, that the forest embodies, that everything here shares.